ASML.
Okay.
Okay, they make the tools for every chip maker. Um, so they're essential. They have a monopoly actually in what they currently do.
Yep.
But why hasn't their stock exploded?
A couple of reasons. I think even though the trade is crowded, it's not just going to give you the same return that Nvidia is going to give. So I just don't think it's their time yet. I think the businesses run incredibly well, but certain times in investing, themes, PR, and narrative matters a lot. I just don't know if they have the right combination of timing and funds being behind them to maybe pull that off. But I think it's an incredibly run company. And I also want to say this too: what Nvidia has been able to do over these last 6 years is an anomaly like no other. Like, we can't make that be our baseline of expectation.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard when you hear all of these high results and high gains to kind of want a lower return. We talked about that. I mean, they're a great company. Gross margin 52%, net margin is 29%. Like, they are an amazing company. They just aren't Nvidia, but that doesn't mean that they're not still exceptional. I just don't think that they've been able to pull off the kind of return or have asymmetric reward basis that Nvidia does as a result.
This is a geopolitics
it's a big part
problem.
Of it.
Again, ASML is not an American company. It's a Dutch company. There has been an American and Dutch regulation that has stopped ASML from being a part of one of the largest global economies in the world, which is China. That has recently happened. That is going to hurt your bottom line. The other thing is that the EUV systems, the machine that they build, right, that monopoly that Shai's talking about, which TSM uses to manufacture, which Samsung uses to manufacture. When you take Samsung and TSM, you're talking about pretty much every semiconductor in the world.
And they should be much bigger, but they're facing the same geopolitical constriction.
Right. And also they can't ship to China.
Yep.
Then you take into account that the president has put a Europe tariff in effect. That was at 30%. Again, this is not an American company. This is a Dutch company.
Yeah.
That's the first piece. The next piece is, when you really break it down, the EUV machines, the price point for the newest one is $340 million. Right? So you think about the CapEx that it takes to spend to create the machine that you have the monopoly on. Then it goes into how many clients can afford to use you as a partner in business. There are very few. So their client base is very small. Who are they? The top clients: TSM, Samsung, Intel. They take up a bulk of all the orders that come from ASML. When you're only relying on 3 companies, that becomes tough because supply, demand, inventory. Right? You're really reliant on what TSM does, right? If they don't have the orders, then you're not needed. But if they do have the orders, which we're seeing, the AI that it's picking up, and we're seeing NVIDIA, then they will become even more necessary. They have a monopoly because they have the machine that manufactures the chips that are going to be designed. We went down the pipeline in EYLU on why they're so important.
Yep.
If we take those geopolitical matters into account, you can see why this kind of company that is a monopoly isn't running the way it should. In terms of
should be way
price.
bigger than what it is.
Yeah,
for sure.
So let's take some questions from the audience. One question is Uber still a good buy?
1000% yes. I love Uber. I spoke about Uber. We did a whole presentation here on Market Mondays a few weeks ago about Uber. Shout out to everybody that tuned in, and shout out to everybody that invested in it. I love it. I love it long term. I got some calls on it. That autonomous piece is important. When we talked about Tesla, the one thing that Tesla does have that Uber does not is that Uber doesn't have to spend CapEx on making a vehicle. It relies on you.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about the profit margins that are at its footsteps if we get autonomous driving correct. The number one spend for Uber is their drivers and the insurance that comes with those drivers. If we have autonomous, you can obviously see where that revenue model will go up. And people are like,
Yep.
oh my gosh, who's going to want to get in a car with nobody driving? Well,
A bunch of people.
20 years ago, who would get in a car with a stranger and say, take my kid 30 minutes away?
Yep.
Those same people. Now, that's just the first revenue model. I think where it has an even more of a great like segue to really gain profit is from Uber Eats. Because if I could just put the food in an autonomous car, right? And that just goes, you put it in, it delivers, you take it out, that it becomes even more advantageous. You don't need to have anybody handling it.
Yeah.
Not only do you do Uber Eats, but now you start getting into logistics, right? Now you start delivering
the delivery,
items, like DoorDash does that. So I'm big on Uber. Is one of my companies going into 2026 for sure.
Where does quantum computing fall under AI umbrella?
It's the next evolution at the end of the third wave of AI. We're nowhere near there yet.
We're not.
We're nowhere near.
Here's how it works. This is crazy. That's crazy. That was on there. I didn't even see that. But
that's a super chat question.
Super chat question. So think of it like this. And I had like I said, I went on this walk yesterday with my guys, Max and Ethan, and I had two boulders. And one was a large size boulder and one was kind of a little bit smaller. I said, this is how you should be thinking about semiconductors and wafers and nanometers, right? Because it's measured in nanometers, right? Intel is still making 10 nanometer wafer, right? Whereas NVIDIA, AMD have gone down to 5, right? TSM is manufacturing that. And then the next stage, it'll be NVIDIA saying, hey, we can do this at 3 nanometers, right? Intel still at 10, right? So that means they can get a more powerful, more efficient, more information on a smaller chip, which now can go into more devices where Intel is still stuck at this level. After you go from a 3 nanometer, it's not going to go down to 1. The next evolution of that is quantum computing. So that will change that's going to change the entire semi space, right?
Whoever wins the quantum race.
Whoever wins that, you're out of. We're not there yet.
That's a 50-year win. Yep.
This is important. Again, and shout out to Tiffany and shout out to Lewis over at the video when they allow us to go to GTC. Every company who matters in quantum, they spoke and they had a panel and they were with Jensen. So that tells me the way that they do their product models, right? They tell you every 12 months it's a new chip. Meanwhile, they're making a new one every 6. They're cooking.
Yeah. Who will ultimately win that race? Probably OpenAI, NVIDIA for sure, Microsoft for sure. If Apple is smart, if they lose this AI race, they got to make their losses up in quantum. And Google is going to do incredibly well.